Ray Wang, over 50% of the Fortune 500 has been acquired or fallen off the list since 2000, and you say it's because they failed to cross the digital divide. Why don't you explain?
You know, it's a massive compression that's happening. If you take it even one step further, in the S&P 500, since 1960, the average age of a company was 60 years old. Now it's 12 years old. That's a 5x compression. And what they missed was really digital business models. This isn't about the internet. This isn't about the change in terms of the global financial crisis. This isn't about mobile or cloud or data. It's the fact that these business models are changing so rapidly.
And one old line company you say that's done a lot of digital disruption is GE. How did they do it?
You know, GE is a great example. They've come back to realizing that it's the software. They looked at the business model. What people wanted from them was uptime. Right? 99-point classic G, 99.999% uptime. And so when you're delivering on uptime, you've got to figure out everything from the sensors, the analytics. That's why they're so big on Internet of Things. That's why they got 2,500 people in software sitting in the Silicon Valley. And so one of the interesting things about GE is they've now become a technology company around all their big industrial stuff. I mean, they're at the point where I would actually even think they should be the ones buying Salesforce because they'd get a huge platform for Internet of Things.
Interesting. Now, you're also a fan of Marriott because you said that Marriott is now using algorithms in order to get their rooms straight. People don't think about Marriott as a tech company.
Yeah, so in order to compete with companies like Airbnb, they've got to figure out who their top customers are. Once they get their customers, they become elite members. Those elite members are treated very differently. I just checked into the Renaissance in Times Square, and they knew. It was like, hey, how have you been doing? We've seen you when your last day was X, and they knew exactly what kind of pillows I want, how I want my room. That's the kind of thing they're getting, and this is not a five-star hotel.
Two companies that were forced to cross that digital divide have been News Corp with regard to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. They had to do it. Have they done it well?
You know, I think they have. When we look at the Wall Street Journal, they were the first to get these paid subscription numbers to go like crazy. And I'm still paying my $99, $100 for subscription with the Journal. So, and when we think about the Times, I actually crossed the paywall. I actually am a subscriber. And so by doing that, what they did was change the availability of premium content. But we talk about this. Companies are no longer selling products. They're no longer selling services. They're selling experiences and outcomes. And to keep a brand promise, that's one of the first things you have to do.
All right, and then finally, if you're an investor, what should you be looking for so that the company you own won't fall off the Fortune 500 list in the next 10 years? Or which one you think are going to rise up the Fortune 500 list over the next 10 years?
You know, there are a couple things that are important for disrupting digital business. We have that on our blog at raywang.org, but the important thing to think about is, are companies stripping out transaction costs? Are they able to go direct to a consumer? That's an important piece. The second thing is, can you sell something in the smallest incremental unit? So I'm going from selling you a case of Coke to a bottle of Coke to a can of Coke. How much would you pay for a sip of Coke? You got to think about that smallest unit, craft an experience around that. And then the other piece that's important is, because we're keeping a brand promise, we've got to capture data. This data and this insight, all these new business models are coming from insight. So if 20% of your business is not coming from an insight stream by 2020, you're going to be out of business.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ray Wang.
Hey, thanks a lot, Greg.
I'm going to go get a sip of Coke.
All right.
Thanks for coming on The Street.